on this episode of Edge of the Web.
That's a fairly stressful decision for marketers to have to face, because it's like, well, I want it to be easy and work together, but I also want the best tools. Can't I have both?
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
I had that joke brewing up all week long. 3-1 redirect. And what did I do? Forgot the joke. And then just fumbled over the entire intro.
I know. I had no idea where you're going with it.
Come on, SEOs, 301 redirect. Come on, we could have tossed it anyway.
Got it.
Whatever. Okay, we're broadcasting from Edge Media Studios located in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Welcome to Edge of the Web Radio. If you haven't heard us before, we're continually bringing the latest marketing trends in digital marketing, as well as marketing influencers, interviews from around the planet. You can check out all the recent episodes over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. We're powered by Site Strategics, our parent company, a digital marketing firm here in Indianapolis, Indiana, focused on the agile methodology of digital marketing, utilizing iterative responses and results-based marketing changes that you should be looking for in your digital marketing agency. So if you're interested in seeing what that's all about, give us a shout over at sitestrategics.com, S-I-T-E, strategics.com, or just give us a call at 877-SEO for web. That's 877-736-4932. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks, also the owner of Site Strategics and founder of Edge Media Studios here. And every week we do this show for a couple of different reasons. One, most importantly, is to be able to kind of break apart and help demystify some of the digital marketing tactics that are out there, because there's so many things that are changing on a regular basis. We want to be able to take a pause and be able to share with you some great information and kind of help just understand some of the tactics that are out there, because they're coming at a fast pace to us for all the marketers that are out there, either in corporations or in agencies. But at the same time, we're also helping educate ourselves. A bit selfish there, is we want to keep on the trends and making sure that we are keeping our powder dry and our sword sharp when it comes down to digital marketing tactics for our own clients. That's one of the reasons that we do this. So I'd like to introduce to you my cohort in crime, the Tom Broadbeck, Director of Digital Media over here.
Hey, we're going to have the same joke for the next 7 episodes then?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We got
to hit 302s, 303s.
I'm just waiting for the 404.
Yeah.
We're just going to have like dead silence.
Yeah. We won't have a
podcast
show.
won't be here.
We'll just skip it. We'll just go to 405.
See now you're with me now. See? Sorry. It's like a dad joke. It's like a geek dad joke.
SEO dad joke.
That's a niche audience right there, man. I'd like to introduce to you our guest on the dial here. That's Scott Brinker. Scott, how are you doing, sir?
I am good. Loving the 301 joke.
You don't have to do that. You don't have to indulge me. Just say I sucked and let's move on. Scott actually is a great resource. He's actually VP platform ecosystem at HubSpot, as well as the editor over at chiefmartech.com. And we're certainly happy to have you on board and want to dive into a lot of discussions regarding marketing technology. We had a great conversation before the show launch, and we certainly are great fans of HubSpot. So thanks for joining us, Scott.
Excited to be here.
Excellent.
Marketing technology is my favorite topic.
Absolutely. We and on top of that, this is going to be a 301-minute show. No, nothing. All right, I'll stop.
Do that. Just, no,
Game on. we got some coffee with it. We're piping over to you right now. All right. So, but first and foremost, every show we want to dive into the news of the week. So, Scott, you ready to go do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
I'm going to do what God put Ron Burgundy on this earth to do. Have salon-quality hair and read the news.
This week's trending topics.
Salon quality hair and read the news. The digital marketing news.
That's right.
We need to see if he can do a custom intro for us.
We're about 301 seconds into the show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's about 5 minutes.
You just did the calculation on it. Quick calculator. Oh, hey, from The Verge by Greg Sterling. Spotify gets serious about podcasts with 2 acquisitions. What are we talking about here?
Sorry, that's not a Greg Sterling article. That's from The Verge. I just forgot to put that in the script, so I apologize.
Tom Warren. Sorry, let's get
Tom Warren. There we go. Spotify. Bought Gimlet and what's the other one? I'm blanking on Anchor. There they go.
Yep.
Yeah. So here we go. Straight from the article. Spotify is fully committing to building a podcast network. Music streaming giant has acquired Gimlet Media and Anchor to boost its podcast credentials as the company looks to grow its share in the podcast market. A little bit further down, there's a quote from the CEO saying that people who are listening to podcasts obviously have a longer listening time, and so it's more time on their platform, and so that's why they're interested into growing that out. So it'll be interesting. It looks like they're looking to buy more than just those 2, so we'll see how big of a player Spotify becomes.
That was a big acquisition for Gimlet. Gimlet has a huge following, and they were have been producing some fantastic shows, and that was a quick acquisition as well. I mean, I think we heard rumors of it about, well, two or 3 weeks ago. I'm sure this has been going on for a good while behind the scenes, but that's big news because Spotify has been a kind of a secondary destination for a lot of podcasters because it's been a music-based oriented platform. But that's a huge growth of podcasting. And wow, what a great series of resources between Gimlet and Anchor. Scott, are you a big podcast fan? Now, say yes. Say yes now.
Well, obviously. Right? In fact, I love the fact that, basically now in a competition between, MarTech related podcasts and the Rolling Stones, it sounds like the MarTech podcast might be winning out as far as Spotify thinks. So awesome.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Eventually, the Rolling Stones won't be doing any more shows, so we're going to be able to eclipse them, right? So,
it'll be interesting to see how Apple and Google respond to this. Google has the Google Podcasts app that they created 6-7 months ago. Well, that's the app I've kind of transitioned to. But it hasn't really been. I don't feel like it's been incorporated into like the main software like it has with Apple, with their Apple Podcast section. So it'll be interesting to see how both those companies respond and if they make any acquisitions and any other tools that they come up with for podcasting.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, what this shows light on, and for individuals that haven't been in the podcast space, podcasting is a huge media form, and it's going to be embraced as even larger than mass media to a particular degree. Is that this is fractionalized consumption of the new media audience, and I mean, this is where you can get your information dialed in explicitly to what you like to listen to, who you like to listen to, and the game's completely different than mass broadcast ever could imagine, and they missed the opportunity, and the net's taken over to be able to answer the need of the new media audience, right?
Correct.
It's a really different world. I mean, it's interesting when we talk about some of the MarTech stuff here. One of the things I find most fascinating in that space is in software, how it's become so much of a long tail, so much of the specialization and niche capability. And that's not a bug, that's a feature.
Yeah.
Sometimes feels like a bug for people. It can be a bit overwhelming, but, that incredible choice, and specialization is really probably across all sorts of industries and contexts, the biggest gift the internet continues to keep giving us.
Absolutely. And the audience is getting more and more savvy, and they don't have to partake of the mass fount, is that there's so much nuanced information. So your loyalty base is going to get fractionalized, but man, those consumers are going to stay with you for a much longer degree as well. So kudos to Spotify, and we're certainly going to be watching that and seeing that grow. Over at Recode by Lily Hay Newman.
Nope, I guess I forgot that author too.
Nope, it's Kurt Wagner. See, 301 redirecting. That's what we're doing right now.
You really are Ron Burgundy, huh?
There you go. See, Snap's earning sent its stock up more than 20%, but user growth remains a real concern. Snapchat needs help from a new Android app that's still missing in action. Snap finally had a good day because they certainly, their stocks had dropped even from the initial offerings. You might call it a great day. That's because after a tough year in which Snap execs and investors watched the company's stock price slowly bleed out because of government investigations, executive departures, and product issues, Snap reported better than expected earnings on Tuesday that shot the stock up more than 22% in after-hours trading. And the main reason for that, Snap's business last quarter was stronger than anyone thought. Sales were up a record $390 million, a 36% jump over the same quarter last year. And Snap has slowly become moving towards profitability, a goal that CEO Evan Spiegel shared internally with Snap employees last year. So that's great news for Snap. Boy, that was, I don't want to say a loss leader, but man, they needed a good bump in value there, and they certainly did get it. So thoughts about Snap and the longevity of Snap as well, Scott?
Well, it's great to see them, make that leap forward. Usually the narrative we see too often is, once these things start on a downward decline, it is like, it's a feedback loop either way. When they're on that meteoric rise, the fact that they're growing and they're succeeding attracts more people and it gets bigger faster, and then when you start to get the sense of, okay, that tide has turned and, bad news tends to encourage more bad news.
The cascade
I really
effect.
admire any company that basically, in today's environment, when they're able to stop that and then recapture momentum. I think that's a pretty impressive feat.
Absolutely. Thoughts about Snap, Tom? There you go. See, that's it.
That's a snappy response.
Wow. I'm going to turn that into a Giphy.
I just don't use Snapchat. I don't know. I don't.
You too old for that?
Yeah, I guess I'm just that get off my lawn guy at 30.
Darn whippersnappers. If it wasn't for you darn kids.
I have it. It's on my phone, but
my kids love it. It's entertaining to the 7-year-old, which I don't think that's the buyer's market they were going after. All right, from CNBC, Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey teases a feature that would actually let you edit your tweets. And I'm going to make sure we got the author right.
I got that one right.
Ryan Brown. He actually wrote, hey, Twitter, Dorsey actually says that Twitter is looking at, quote unquote, letting users edit their tweet while still keeping the original version of the post publicly viewable. You could actually build it in such that maybe we introduce a 5-second to 30-second delay in the sending and within the window that you could actually edit. He explains that the reason editing tweets isn't currently a feature is due to the fact that he and his fellow co-founders were born on SMS. Okay, well, absolutely. That's where Twitter came from. Mm-hmm. If I want to, in the quick news world that we live in right now, instantaneous news, and how impactful the Twitter broadcasts are, as well as the absence of Twitters. We've seen very recently when a heck of a lot of publicity-focused individuals jumped on a particular issue and then also retracted their tweets, deleted their tweets, by and large, very, very quickly, talking about the kids at Washington, D.C. and misunderstanding what really happened there. I'll go as far as that. But there was a heck of a lot of voided tweets that were actually a telltale sign, right? Well, if you now have the ability to change those tweets, now they're talking about a window of time,
window, yeah.
right, as opposed to in perpetuity. You're leaving a trail behind you, and maybe this is a take three seconds breathing time scenario before you actually send that message. Think, measure twice, cut once kind of thing, as opposed to trying to reorient. I don't know, Scott. What do you think about this?
Wow, I'm probably on the other end of the spectrum here. I kind of, one of the things I like about Twitter is its idiosyncrasies. I like, they often saying creativity, right?
Sure.
It's actually better for creativity to have a more constrained canvas. It makes you think, ways that, lead you to just new ways of trying to communicate what you're doing. Apparently, in some cases, not always for the better, but I mean, I was even disappointed when they moved from what was it, like 120 characters up to 240. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, you can do this, but one of the things that made Twitter charming to me was people had to kind of keep it really short.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. The editing. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely been a few tweets I wouldn't mind going back and like fixing a misspelling or other embarrassing things. But I don't know. I'd be just as happy keeping it as it is. See, now I'm the grouchy old man. Get off my lawn.
No, I'm the same way. I can't tell you how many times I've tweeted something and then it's like, oh, gotta go delete it because I
typoed.
Was trying to rephrase my wording, and then it just didn't make sense and made me look like a bigger idiot than I already am. And so, the 30-second window would be nice.
I just want a button. Are you sure you want to tweet that? Just a nice little double check. You sure you want? I mean, almost, catching some. I
think it'd be better if it was you want to tweet this just to yourself, just so you can release the pressure of whatever anger you want to get out in that tweet. You just press the button and it goes nowhere except to yourself.
Kind of like Mark Twain actually had a quote of his was, "Every house needs a room that you can curse in." Right. So you want to have that mini echo chamber of your own tweets that don't go anywhere. All right.
Yep.
Well, you know what? I think I agree with you there. But you know what will go everywhere is our newsletter into your inbox each and every week. If you want to jump onto the Edge Nation, just jump in there. Go to edgeofthewebradio.com. Sign up for the newsletter. It's sending nuggets of pure digital gold regarding who we're talking to, who we've just talked to, some news of the day, and we won't even redirect this email to something else. So join us on a regular basis here and contribute. Let us know how we're doing on the newsletter. But jump in there because we love our newsletter fans, and we certainly want to see that grow. So you can also text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk. Don't do that when you're driving. Just pull over right now. Do it. We'll wait. No? All right. But join us, and we won't use your email for anything else except sending the Edge straight to your inbox. So follow all the featured trending topics over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. But let's now deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Scott Brinker, editor of ChiefMarTech.com.
So Deep Voice Guy introduced Scott Brinker. Let's introduce our audience to Scott, or other way around. Let's introduce Scott to our audience.
There we go.
Scott is the VP Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot, as well as the editor at ChiefMarTech.com. And he started that in 2008. Boy, you've seen a lot of marketing technology change over the last 10 years.
Obsessive compulsive. I'm the Mr. Monk of marketing technology.
Excellent reference. That's awesome. Well, prior to HubSpot, he was a co-founder and CTO of Ion Interactive, working with companies like Cisco, Dell, DHL, General Mills, and Microsoft. He's also known for creating the renowned marketing technology landscape that has charted the growth of the MarTech industry from a few hundred vendors to over 5,000. Boy, you've witnessed literally a gold rush, haven't you?
Yep, I've moved a lot of little logos around on a PowerPoint slide. It's been fascinating. My goodness, can you think of any other business software industry before this that had thousands of offers? I mean, it's crazy. It's and now it's not just marketing. We see this with it's happening in HR and sales and accounting. But yeah, this software explosion, it caught me by surprise as much as anyone.
And I think a lot of those new platforms in these different industries, they cut their teeth on MarTech and the SaaS technology explosion over the last 10 years. So marketing technology has begot a lot of other platforms that we're using and what are going to be coming in the future, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, it makes sense, right? The internet changed the relationship that consumers and buyers have with companies. And so very natural then that like the first set of business technology that would really start to have an explosion of innovation would be, marketing and sales. And like, okay, now that consumers, buyers want to deal with us in different ways, how do we actually serve them? How do we make this a better experience?
And are we in the golden age of marketing technology right now?
It sure does feel that way, except I think some people would say it's almost like there's too much gold. I mean, let's face it, it's a lot of technology, and businesses, even individuals, just marketing managers, like trying to absorb all these new innovations and understanding, okay, which ones do we adopt? Which ones do we use? What's important? What can I ignore?
Right.
It's the best of times and the worst of times.
You're absolutely right, because new marketers that get in there, there's certainly some well-matured or seasoned marketing platforms. But at the same time, digital marketing is moving at such a fast rate that it is springing up new tech and new platforms all the time to be able to canvas the breadth of tactics that we can deploy for our clients or our company. It's almost like I would look at marketing tech as finding its way this entire time as well, because the dimensions of online marketing truly evolved. And we had to, from marketing technology entrepreneurs, we had to define the dimensions of what these tactics did, right? So it was a problem needing a solution, or solution needing a problem, so to speak, is that it started to move at the same rate and giving windows into how to measure, how to be effective, all the while. The ever-changing digital marketing landscape is a fount of innovation. Well, that's a long-winded sentence.
Well, I think what's interesting, it's always fascinated me about this space, is we've seen explosions of software before, but they almost always happen around a platform, right? Like you can go back to like Windows, and okay, with Windows, there's a whole bunch of software that came out that could, be installed on Windows, or with the iPhone and Android, this explosion of millions of apps now that you could easily plug into these your smartphone. What was kind of bizarre about the MarTech landscape is you had this explosion of all this software, but for many years, there wasn't really any organizing platform behind it. It was kind of all these shooting stars off in their own little, space. And one of the big debates for years in the industry was, okay, well, do I buy a suite? Do I just try and get one company that can give me as much stuff as possible in the box, and I'll just live with that.
Right.
But hopefully it's easier. I don't have to do any work to like connect anything. It's there. I bought it, bam, done. Or do I go best of breed? Do I find the individual components, in each of these different categories of what I use for the web site? What do I use for my social media? What am I using for my email management? But then it's really on my shoulders to connect these wires together.
Yeah.
And there were arguments on both sides, suite or best of breed. But that's a fairly stressful decision for marketers to have to face, because it's like, well, I want it to be easy and work together, but I also want the best tools. Can't I have both?
Yeah, absolutely. And you found a lot of these suite packages dabbling in areas where they should not have gone. Historically, we saw Moz that kind of imploded, or at least sucked itself back into some core disciplines of technology, because they got themselves overextended in so many different landscapes. Right, there was still good. It was a good series of technologies, but it was too disparate, and they really needed to come back to the cornerstone of what they did and what they did very well. So not only do you have the gold rush of all of these different technologies and platforms, and they're innovating along the way, but they're also learning what they shouldn't be doing. Unfortunately, in the situation where the consumer is actually experiencing a good deal of the rough ride there. So, are you seeing a maturing now where companies, these best of breeds, know that this is what they do, this is what they do well, and that you're not seeing that many overextensions or overreaches where we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think directionally it's now headed in a better place. That pretty much all of the major suites and major marketing clouds have come to the realization that they just can't do it all. There's just too many possible things out there. They're constantly changing. There's so many different ways you could specialize them that it'd just be impossible for any one company to build it all. But they recognize, right, trying to find that sweet spot of saying, listen, marketers don't want to be IT integrators. They want to have this coherence to how their marketing stack works. They want to make sure they have a consistency to the data. They want to have that sort of visibility across the analytics of how all the pieces are running. But they want to augment that foundational system with these best of breed capabilities on a much more plug and play basis. And so I think what you've been seeing across the entire industry, and full disclosure, HubSpot is one of the companies doing this transformation, but most of the majors in the industry are of saying, okay, it's not about being an all-in-one suite. It's really about becoming an all-on-one platform.
There it is.
To say that, let's give people that foundation and those core systems and those core capabilities, but open it up and work with these third-party developers to allow them to plug in these more specialized apps in a way that maybe it's not quite as easy as installing an app on your iPhone yet, but that's the direction we want to get to, right? We want to make it just as seamless as we possibly can.
And that's a beautiful thing, at least to my ears, because we as an agency have gone through platform selections, and we still have a bandolier of tools that we use because they are so specialized. HubSpot being one of them, but we've got a number of great tool sets that we've not only come to embrace their interfaces and their platforms, but they just do it so well. You're gonna have to have that next level of integration where you're absolutely right. I mean, if we can operate from a HubSpot platform and be able to have our favorite tools, right, our recipe, then all the better for not only the marketer, but the client as well.
Yeah, well, it's a win for everyone. The platform companies win because their customers are happier and more successful. The third-party developers who specialize in these, capabilities, they're happier because they don't have to fight the integration battle, right? If it becomes a really simple plugin to these major platforms, then that's one barrier to it getting new customers that goes away.
Right.
So yeah, I again, there's some aspiration to this in the industry. It's definitely not anywhere near as easy as it could be today, but all the players seem to be moving in the direction of making this better. And I think we play this out over a few years, it will get a lot better.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, Scott, you got to forgive me, is that I didn't give you the opportunity to kind of give our audience your backstory beyond the official bio. So would you mind indulging us for a little bit and tell us how you got to where you are?
And you said the show we could go on for 301 minutes, right? All right. So the highly condensed version is, I started my career as a software entrepreneur. I have a background in engineering. But I ultimately ended up building products for marketers, helped run a small web agency for a number of years that built very sophisticated web applications for companies like Citrix and Siemens. Eventually then launched a SaaS company for marketers myself, on Interactive. So that whole journey of basically being in the world of a technologist trying to provide software to marketing organizations. That's what led to my other passion of the blog, of really just being amazed by this collision of these two different professions, the world of software and IT and technology and the world of marketing that, even 10 years ago, we're certainly pioneers on the digital frontier, but in like mainstream marketing and mainstream IT, they didn't speak the same language. They didn't even want to. It wasn't that they even hated each other. It's that they just didn't even talk to each other. They just didn't even have the same language.
They didn't know what the others were doing, but you're absolutely right. They had no idea how to even convey what was important on their side of the fence.
And that's fascinating because, certainly you guys saw, right? I mean, you could see very clearly the future of business were these two organizations being entwined together. And so that's what got me passionate about championing these marketing technologist hybrid professionals. And that was a very niche blog topic for many years. But over time, it got quite a community that started to develop there, and that actually also led to us launching the MarTech conference
right
in 2014, and now we run that twice a year in the Bay Area and Boston. In fact, actually, we have our Bay Area event coming up at the beginning of April. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Excellent. I highly recommend that conference. There's a huge amount of interest and focus on the MarTech side, and it keeps on getting better every year. Some great players that are out there and great contributors because they share so much information as the years have progressed. So kudos to you on that side of the fence. You're a clarion call for just giving everybody a view into what MarTech has evolved into, and you're certainly going to be in pocket sharing information regularly as MarTech evolves. You have a unique position, and you've actually kind of built something for us to be able to see over the years. You've had an infographic that you have developed and redeveloped over the years. Your first infographic was with the MarTech landscape. How has it changed over the years?
Yeah. So I did the first version of that slide in 2011, and it was for a presentation I was giving to a group of marketing executives, trying to convince them that they should hire a technologist on the marketing team. And I assembled that slide really just as an exhibit for my case of like, look at how many different technologies you're now becoming dependent on. Doesn't it make sense to have the management of this be something that is within your organization? And it had exactly the effect I was hoping it would. People looked at this slide it was like about 150, and they're like, oh my goodness, 150 marketing technologies. How could we ever keep track of all of these? And then I kept going back to that exercise year over year, and it's like a year later, it was 350. And a couple years later, it was 1,000, and everyone, including me, was like, wait, what? How many? Are you kidding me? And then 2,000 the next year, and then nearly 4,000, and then over 5,000. And this past year, it was nearly 7,000. And we're actually in the middle of doing the work on the 2019 version. And I won't give any spoilers to this, but if you were expecting it to shrink down dramatically, I wouldn't put money on that.
So how big is this graphic now? Because otherwise it's just a muddled mess of logos. So
it is a muddled mess of logos. In fact, actually, so one of the things we started doing a couple years ago is we started just sharing the data. Like we publish a spreadsheet. So, if you actually want to look at the categories and see the different companies in them, it's a little bit more useful. Frankly, the graphic, in my opinion, has no value other than being a conversation starter. Because I think when you look at it and you're like, oh my God, I mean, like I could tell you, hey, there are 6,842 MarTech companies in the world. But in some ways, it's like your mind just doesn't, oh, well, what does that mean? But when you see 6,842 logos of all these different companies, you're like, oh my God. So it's a visceral effect.
It truly is. Interesting enough is that the companies that make that list, I mean, they're not just startups, by the way, folks. I mean, these companies have longevity, and that's part of your evaluation process as well, is that you can't pin documentation to each and every potential MarTech that's out there. Is that, I mean, you have certain litmus tests, certain filters that they have to cross through to be able to make it to that list, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do check the site of every single one. We're looking for what sort of customers they have.
Right.
You know, we've done searches on, what sort of funding, if they've been funded. I mean, and it isn't perfect. I mean, actually, I don't have anything against startups in the space if they pass the sniff test of like, okay, this
Sure.
looks like it's a legitimate thing.
Right.
In fact, actually, that's one of the things about the space I think is worth highlighting is just how many startups do enter the space. And how many, quite frankly, even though they're new and they're startups, they're able to get traction
Hmm.
with a set of, great brands, and they start to get great case studies and deliver results. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic to that space. I can't think of any parallel previously in the history of business software. I was like, oh yeah, we've seen this movie before.
Right.
Kind of a new script.
It really is, but it is a coveted space to get to. I mean, from a MarTech standpoint, you want to get on that list. You want to get on that graphic. As muddled as large as it is a a rite of passage, so to speak, for a lot of MarTech companies, right?
Yep. A funny story is I won't name the guilty party, but I actually had the PR person at a relatively large MarTech company like send me this angry email a couple of years ago of like, why aren't we in here? We should be in this category, that category. And I pull up the graphic and I highlight, you're in this category, you're in that category, you're in the. He just couldn't find the logo. Like, all right.
Wow. So for being a data-oriented marketing firm, you're not really paying attention. That's funny.
But it's like, where's Waldo? I can't blame him. Like,
Yeah.
But meanwhile, to find the logo, I'm hunting around for it. So.
It would be interesting. I'm sure you've thought about the dimensions of what this thing does. But even having a histogram, so to speak, of the longevity of certain, almost like this ascendance of where certain MarTech started, right, and their growth, and all of a sudden the explosion. You can just see a timeline happening that feeds your infographic of where things started to really roll in the MarTech space. Have you thought about something like that? Because that would be interesting as well.
Yeah, we did a very lightweight version of that, just based on the numbers, about a year or two ago, and yeah, I mean it's kind of what you would expect. It was right around 2012 where you started to see some real growth, and then right around maybe 2014, 2015. That was when you just hit this incredible inflection point. And I mean, you can look at the data for like, for instance, like VC investment in the space.
Right.
It maps the same way. I mean, it just went, through the roof, 2015, 2016, even 2017 was pretty high.
Oh, very cool. No, it's great to be able to be in that seat and witness what's happening. So in 2019, what can we expect from the MarTech industry this year?
Yeah, well, apparently some more MarTech companies. But I think it's interesting. So yeah, this post I recently wrote about 3 trends that I've been looking at.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is this decision we used to have to make between suite versus best of breed. I do think the industry is finally converging in a place where we're going to have these major platforms, and then these third-party solutions that are more specialized will be designed in a way to integrate more seamlessly with the platforms. And so in some ways, that debate about when is MarTech going to consolidate, in some ways it has, but the consolidation is around the platforms. I mean, there's HubSpot, there's Adobe.
Yep.
Marketo was on its own, but now it's going to be part of Adobe too. So that's, part of that consolidation. Salesforce, Oracle. It's a relatively small set of those major platforms. But as they're all opening up more APIs and they're all getting better at providing these partner programs to other developers, what you're now starting to see is a lot of those more specialized apps across the MarTech industry. You go to their website, they're like, oh yeah, well, we integrate to Salesforce and we integrate to HubSpot and we integrate to Marketo. And I think that that's starting to provide a little bit of organization, some order to the chaos, that you're like, oh, okay, well, I've got my platform, and now I can pick these other things and plug them in.
Oh, in that same momentum, could it be said that any any MarTech startups that are trying to build that platform, the first thing that they have to have is a list of integrations that they have to support, even to be a reasonable choice or a option to go with. I mean, the whole game's changed now.
Yep, I think that is definitely how folks compete, and it goes both ways, right? So for the platform, one of the things you probably do when you're evaluating which platform you buy is you look in their app marketplace and their app directory and see, okay, well, do they have the other sort of tools that I would want? And then same thing, if you're going and you're looking at a particular specialized tool, you go to look to see, okay, well, does this integrate with the platform that we use at my company? And increasingly, the answer to both of those is more frequently yes, which we're getting there.
Yeah. Well, actually, as a consumer of these platforms, and Tom can attest that I'm like a kid in the candy store when it comes down to these type of specialized toys. I'm sorry, these fantastic reporting tools. But one of the things that actually I, as a consumer of these tool sets, I'll look to see the integrations that they have and how slow some of the software that we've used over time has come to adopt and create new integrations. And I've actually made decisions on just stopping with a particular software because I haven't seen the momentum that I expected to see out of that tool set to integrate with different applications.
Yep. No, I mean, the one thing you said this at the beginning, right? I mean, the one thing we know for certain about MarTech is it's changing. Mm-hmm. It's not just MarTech; it's just marketing. I mean, just the digital engagement with the customers in the world. It's just constant, change. And so, if your software providers, particularly your platform software provider, isn't providing you some sort of mechanism to be able to keep up with that pace of change and hopefully make it easier for you to keep up with that pace of change, then yeah, you've got a real gap.
Yeah, you really do. You had a recent blog on Chief MarTech identifying the different ages of MarTech, and you, like we talked about just briefly, you say we're in the first golden age of MarTech. I like that qualifier. So what do you mean by the first MarTech? Yeah, let's go pull that up on screen.
Yeah, so I think this first MarTech was that explosion of all these different vendors in the space, the MarTech 5000. But as I said, they largely came together independently. It wasn't a very platform-oriented ecosystem. It was kind of every tool on its own, and we'll figure out how they all connect together on a case-by-case basis. And I think we're coming to the end of the age where just this idea of all these independent tools that are disconnected from each other, it's just not sustainable. The value proposition for marketers is really around how do I orchestrate all of these different pieces of my stack together. And so the way I illustrated this diagram is I actually do think that a bunch of these MarTech companies that got funding, that were trying to go on the how do I become the next billion-dollar unicorn,
right?
They might have a great product, but that product might have a certain niche that it lives in. And unfortunately for them, even if that's a great product for that niche, it doesn't fit with the VC model of saying, how do we keep growing this to get 10x, 100x, 1000x? And so I think we will see a lot of those companies, the ones that can't break free of that trajectory, they'll probably go away. I mean, there'll be some consolidation, there'll be some acquisition, so I do think it's going to be a little bit of a bumpy road for the next year or two across that landscape. But as I painted there, I feel like the underlying trends, right? This underlying trend of saying, listen, we're moving from, independent best of breed to these platforms that provide, some organizational infrastructure. I think that's actually going to make it easier in the years ahead for these more specialized tools, and they probably won't be VC funded, or at least not, classic VC funded things, because they're not looking to build a $1 billion business. They're looking to build a $10 million or $50 million business, that does this one piece really well,
right,
and it plugs into these platforms so they can sell it to marketers in a way that makes it easy for them to adopt it. I think as these platforms get better, both from a technical perspective and a business momentum perspective,
right,
man, I mean, we could just the explosion of apps in that second golden age could really dwarf what we've seen here in the first.
So you have the progression of the first age of MarTech to the reckoning age of MarTech, and that's what you're talking about. Some of the platforms that just can't break free, and they can't make that jump into what the consumer base is requiring of them to be a sustainable platform. So this second golden age is that not only consolidation, it's the opportunity that the platforms now allow for even better engagement and better marketing, because you've got standardization of data, you've got the platforms playing together, the different SaaS environments playing together inside of that platform, and ultimately you can have better steerage of your marketing efforts with everybody playing from the same hymn book, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect analogy, but if you think back to the days before the iPhone, right? I mean, there were just a ton of different phones, and there were different little OSs for different phones. It was an incredibly fragmented market, and then it was very painful and disruptive when the iPhone and then following on to that, Android came together. There was that period of disruption, and companies like BlackBerry, it didn't go well for them. But if you look on the other side of that, where basically, okay, it really has become a two-platform industry. It's iOS and it's Android. That standardization at the platform level unleashed this incredible explosion of app innovation. I mean, again, it's like each of these ecosystems now has millions of apps. And while it's a long tail and there's, a bunch of junk in the, end of that tail, I mean, still you've got literally thousands of apps that are great apps, a bunch that are making money. Apple's paid out hundreds of millions of dollars now, to app developers, and that entire explosion of ecosystem and innovation, it couldn't really happen until we got some standardization at the platform level.
And from a basic 30,000-foot view of things, that makes perfect sense. But boy, that picture of a timeline comes with a lot of barbs, a lot of pain, as these app developers or these disparate platforms realize that they either have to get with the program or ultimately put up the white flag, right? Because that is absolutely where momentum is leading us, is that standardization, like you're talking about. This is a very good analogy of what the iPhone did and the iOS platform did for innovators. They took the focus off of how to build a platform and focused on utility of applications, right?
Yep. No, absolutely. I think, the good news is for the people who are in this space, even, certainly for all those vendors, even if it's going to be a disruptive couple years, the truth is the talent and experience that those people have is one of the most in-demand skills in the world right now. And so some of them will go on and they will join other MarTech companies, or they will start other MarTech companies on their own.
Right.
But even some of those who simply go into a services side of things, helping companies understand how do they connect these technologies together. More importantly, how do they apply them in ways to deliver remarkable customer experiences. I would say the career prospects for people in MarTech, are incredibly bright at this point. So I know that age of reckoning will be a little bit painful, but not too much crying.
No, you're absolutely right. We saw something. Here locally from Indiana or Indianapolis, Salesforce. Here, there's a cobble industry of Sherpas, for lack of a better term, to be able to help consumers understand how to navigate the Salesforce platform to be able to make a much better tool set for themselves. So you're absolutely right. There's going to be ample opportunity for people. If they're not in that startup mentality, they can certainly be in the supportive space. Got a question. Yep. I got a question for you regarding the second age of golden age here. You mentioned three different areas. You got ecosystems, experts, and engineers. So what role do each of these play in this? Did they play in the first golden age, as well as what they're going to play in the second golden age?
Sure. All right. So we've probably beat the ecosystem drum enough.
Yep. We're good.
The experts is this idea of, again, it's kind of, this dichotomy that we used to have where, okay, you're either a software company or you're a services company, but people looked at you a little bit strangely if you were crossing the streams. And that distinction I see going away. I've been running across a bunch of agencies that, sure, they're providing a service, they get signed up by clients to deliver outcomes, but now a part of what they're doing in that delivery is they've created some little product of their own that is a way of bottling their secret sauce, their way of how they approach optimizing something or delivering some particular insight. And that's proven to be incredibly effective. And vice versa, even the software companies who used to be very reluctant to provide services for the most part, you're seeing a lot more of them embrace this idea of, listen, we got to provide either, deeper education or deeper consulting or some sort of way to help people understand how they leverage all of the innovative technology we've built to get the results.
Yep.
And then the third piece of that, this thing of engineers, is that one more dichotomy, right? It used to be we'd hear about these decisions of build versus buy. Like, do I just buy an off-the-shelf system, which is great, but I can't really customize it? It's the same system that everybody has.
Right.
Or do I build my own, which, okay, I can make this completely tailored to my business, but, oh man, I'm kind of reinventing the wheel that, hundreds of other companies have already built. And again, this is a dichotomy that just doesn't need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
That part of going with these platforms is really for an individual business to say, listen, I'm going to use this platform for the core capabilities of, all right, well, I need a, customer data management system. I need a email delivery engine. I don't want to reinvent these pieces. That's crazy, so I get all of that as part of a commercial off-the-shelf platform. But now, because the platform has these open APIs and this extensibility, I can now start to build specialized applications that are unique to my particular business on top of it. So it's not build or buy, it's kind of, custom apps on a common core.
Yeah, I mean, it's standing on the shoulders of a lot of experience and a lot of trial and error. I mean, I harken back to, I'm of the age where I was building shopping carts from scratch. That was fun.
Nice.
Literally coding them. But as soon as the shopping cart applications came through, and boy, there was a bunch of them, right? All of a sudden, that exercise was a moot point. You can rely on the standardization of applications so that you can actually use your talents to better and further the customer experience, as opposed to making sure that you don't lose cart items and process a cart incorrectly, which we never did. But I mean, it's to your point, it's giving the environment, getting the environment where you can actually point your energies to something that's actually more important than trying to make sense of the ecosystem or having to choose so many different applications, right?
Yep. And so there's one other piece of that I get really excited about is, it also used to be the case that if you wanted to build anything, you really needed a professional software developer. And don't get me wrong, being a professional software developer, there's, the sky's the limit. But what's been really fascinating is throughout cloud businesses, we're seeing more and more of these citizen developer like tools. Talking about integrations, I often give a shout out to Zapier.
Oh, you beat me to it. Yeah.
Because it's just such an easy, I don't have to be an enterprise architect. I don't have to be I don't need a 4-year degree in IT management. I just sign up for Zapier and it says, oh yeah, you want to take this form from this cloud service here and you want to route the data over to this other database in the cloud you've got here. Boom, done. And anybody can do it. And we're seeing that same sort of pattern, with products like Canva and citizen designers. Hey, I have zero design skills. It's clearly that, landscape graphic will attest to. Right? I have zero design skills, but I can go in and use Canva and like, oh my goodness, it makes me just look like a pro. And you're starting to see products like that for app development too.
Yeah.
That non-technical people can go in and they can, using a visual design thing, say, oh yeah, I want someone to come in and have this screen, and then just when they click this button, we send them over here, I get this data, and boom, I'm done. And this is really changing the game for, business people, marketers in particular, who before, if they wanted something custom, they had to go to IT, get a ticket in the deli line, like, okay, I'd like this someday. And they're like, okay, well, you're, ticket number 4,722, we'll get back to you next year. To something where now these business users, a lot of times they're like, oh, I could just kind of build this thing myself. Again, this is a thing in progress. It's changing. It's not perfect.
But even in that space, is that the experts and the engineers are actually going to be building this new build-it-yourself language, and there's going to be standardization in that as well. So, it's going to evolve another set of tools that are going to be even more robust. I mean, Zapier's a perfect example. I mean, what a utility that is. And you're going to see this new language of integration and API connections where you don't have to have the engineering background. You don't have to have that scientific background. You can use these tools to get more innovative and more creative, but you have to trust that language. So there's going to be that growth of stabilization post-platform into this additional layer of translation tool sets, right?
Citizen developers, I call them.
There you go. I love it. And that is going to be an incredible 360 feedback loop of the citizen engineers guiding what's really useful, as opposed to the software developers of the SaaS environments where they think this is going to be a really good application, right? And then it's tried in the marketplace. The citizens themselves are going to be that next innovative class to be able to guide us all.
Yeah, you've really honed in on something that's, at the end of the day, the secret ingredient to business success on the internet is the digital canvas has just made it so easy to experiment inexpensively, right? This is one of the things that's worked for years with A/B testing, in marketing. Well, let's just try it. Let's run an experiment. Let's see which one works best. And yeah, now what you're talking about is that same mentality, but starting to expand it to, actual things that we build, like products and services and stuff like this, that the more people who can build things quickly and we can test, we can just see, does this work? Does this make people happy? Do people love it? Do they hate it? What did they like about it? What can I change quickly and then get feedback?
Yeah.
Like just the speed at which business is able to hone in on like the real demand and the real opportunity, it's mind-boggling. And
the time to market is now almost instantaneous, and not instantaneous, but you'd have to cook up for 6 months to a year. With these type of tool sets, you're able to do things very quickly, and that just is an incredible feedback loop. I really appreciate this insight, Scott, because you're letting us know what's coming up on the MarTech front. So. Can I kind of finish up our conversation asking what's coming up on the MarTech conference front? What should attendees expect from it?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So it'll be April 3rd through 5th in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. In fact, actually, I will pass along to your readers. If they want to get a ticket, they can use the code MarTech VIP, capital M, capital T, capital VIP for 20% off. All right. Keep us between us, the edge of the web family.
Absolutely.
It'll be some incredible keynotes. We've got actually Ann Lunis, the CMO of Adobe, who's a superstar in this space. Fireside chat with her.
Oh, cool.
We've got Terrence Kawaja, the guy of all the original Lumascapes, who's actually coming to talk to us about how direct-to-consumer brands are using MarTech. We actually have the CMO, Mara Gupta, of a direct-to-consumer brand, Freshly, is going to talk. So some amazing keynotes, and then 3 tracks, a marketing, technology, management track, almost all of them are practitioners. Everything from companies like digital natives like Netflix and Zillow, to more traditional companies like Sub-Zero and Nordstrom. So you should get a really great mix of like what are real companies actually doing in this space.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's great, and it's something for everybody there.
Yeah.
We certainly applaud and thank you for that discount. We certainly want our Edge Nation to take advantage of that. So again, repeat that code to us one more time.
MarTech VIP, capital M, capital T, capital VIP.
Very good. And so it's for our family, but you'd be okay if we put it in the show notes for our Edge family, right?
Fair enough.
Well, Scott, it's certainly a pleasure speaking with you. We wrap up every one of our interviews asking a couple just quick questions. First and foremost, what bugs you in your industry right now?
Websites are still too hard to use most of the time.
Huh.
Like seriously, right? This is like an old technology. Like you'd think we would figure this out now.
Yeah.
But how many websites have you gone to trying to get some customer service thing and you're like, this just sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be able to do better by now.
Absolutely. The user experience focal point has been such a underserved area, is that you're getting, people are pushing out content all over the place, but by the time they get to the destination, too confusing, where do they go? And then they shove an interstitial ad at you on the mobile side, and then you're gone. Right?
Yeah, just before the show started, I was reading a thread about somebody who's complaining about how people still use stupid words for their menu navigation that don't make any sense at all for any user experience, and they just try to be cute with their words and their navigations. Like, I just want to contact somebody. I want the contact form, but they use words like talk or
reach out,
right. or is just put contact. That's what people are looking for. Just put contact or
keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, conversely, Scott, what excites you about your industry? And you can't say MarTech.
Oh, wow. There's never been a better time to be a marketer, right? I mean, marketing, both you've got this incredible opportunity, to change how your business engages with customers. But it's also because of all the change in that word I can't say, marketers are finally getting more respect higher up in the organization, that it's not just the Mike Volpe used to call it like the arts and crafts department, right? It's no longer just this, they're the people who go do the press release or they get the ad. It's like, actually, our marketing organization is really central to the success of the company at this point in time. They are running our customer experience operating system. And so it's hard work, but man, what a great opportunity for marketers who aren't afraid of, taking the reins there and building something great.
Oh, well said. Well said. I think the tool sets that we have now also kind of take away obfuscation now, is that you've got clarity in data. You've got the ability for marketers to do their job, do it efficiently and effectively. You don't have to worry about spreadsheets anymore. That's where people would park themselves, right? Is just data analysis and analysis paralysis. You now have these tools that, we've never had before, and you can set your experiments to go, see the results, course correct, and do your job, right?
Dive in.
Excellent. So we certainly want to promote to our listeners the MarTech Conference, April 3rd through 5th in Boston or San Jose?
San Jose.
I'm sorry. And you also have a book that just came out in 2016, not just, but came out, and that is Hacking Marketing. So we certainly want to promote that for you. How'd that go for you?
It was great. The whole book was really about how marketers have adapted these ideas from software management now to marketing management. Because let's face it, marketing's become a digital profession.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff in there about agile marketing and cool things like that.
Sweet. Yeah. I was going to ask if agile made it in there, and certainly, the iterative process, that is absolutely where marketing is starting to coalesce now. It's no longer the wash, rinse, and repeat of yesterdecade. You got to be sharp. You got to be able to move, right?
Adapt.
Or die. Well, that's a morose little Stupid there. All right, so you
Well,
want
I'll just say adapt or not do too well next quarter. How about that?
All right, so we certainly want our Edge fans to track Scott down, Chief MarTech. That's MarTech on Twitter, as well as SJ Brinker over on LinkedIn. Scott, it's been a pleasure. Any final thoughts in the MarTech universe for our audience?
Oh man, don't be afraid. There's more good than bad in this. It's just jump in.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Scott. We truly appreciate the time today, and good luck in your MarTech universe. But certainly, we applaud you for some of the steerage over at HubSpot. We're an avid fan of HubSpot, and you guys are innovating. My God, the coal's finally sinking in. Innovating on a regular basis. We certainly appreciate what you guys are doing on that front, especially the last year and a half, 2 years. HubSpot has just really kind of come into its own now, and we applaud you greatly on that.
Thank you.
No,
thanks for having me on the show.
More than welcome. More than welcome. Thanks for listening to Edge of the Web Radio. Special thank you to our colleagues here at Site Strategics for our production. Thank you, Tom, for your production help each and every show. Special thank you to our guest, Scott Brinker. Be sure to check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. Also, subscribe to the newsletter. We certainly want to grow that newsletter. Let us know how we're doing there. And please rate and review our podcast and shows, because we want to hear back from you. And also let us know who we should be talking to next. In fact, who are we talking to next?
Marie Haynes. She's done a lot about the Google Radar guidelines and authority and trustworthiness and expertise, the EAT concept. So we'll talk about that next week. All right. So stay tuned next week. We're going to have another, it's going to be soft redirect. It won't be a permanent redirect. It's show 302. All right. So from all of us over here at Edge of the Web, thanks so much for listening. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.